Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad to participate in the sixth ICCCASU and allow me to present to you the state of public transportation in Nairobi City, Kenya. My name is Sammy Shikoli Shileche from Nairobi City. I'm the Deputy Director, Urban Planning. I begin by noting that Nairobi City is an iconic economic hub in the Eastern Africa. It's ranked the 10th most dynamic city globally. It contributes about $27.4 billion, the GDP of the country, and sustains an approximate population of 5.7 million residents. It has grown from a transportation depot serving as a colonial center to a capital city of the country, now a renowned city in the world. The city's population rate is about 4.1%. The evolution of public transportation in Nairobi City has evolved also. The city is known to have had an efficient transportation system way back in 1934. The city has experienced a reliable, comfortable, and affordable, sustainable transportation system way into the 1960s and 1980s. In early 30s, the British government signed a contract with an overseas transport company, that is in 1934, which offered public transport services to the broader Nairobi City metropolitan. The signed contract, private-public partnership (PPP), ensured the Nairobi municipality owned 25% shares. The public transportation system was still operated efficiently by 1963. However, a decade later, the OTC fleet manager was overwhelmed by the increased demand for transportation services. The high demand was mainly as a result of the increased urban population of middle and low-income population, as many Kenyans migrated to the city seeking for employment and better services. Gradually, the then efficient public transportation system started experiencing limitations. Therefore, a gap in the public transportation operations was established. This then led to the emergence of an alternative form of transportation system. The informal public transportation service was introduced. Pickups converted into a face-me public transportation vehicle. The informal transportation system was restricted matatu because the passengers were being charged 30 cents. The matatu had operated illegally previously in 1950s, but they were legally gazetted as public transportation mode in 1973. This resulted into an influx of matatus in the city as investors rushed to maximize on profits. However, as a result, the unfavorable government policies, OTC collapsed, sold their shares to a stagecoach company, and later which sold to Kenya Bus Service. The matatu owners evaded taxes, traffic rules, and picked and dropped passengers unrestricted. In 1984, the then President Daniel Arap Moi passed a regulation for matatus to be inspected, insured, and be road licensed. The policy faced stiff opposition. It provided some direction, though, to defining passenger routes and decongesting of the CBD. In 1986, the then President Arap Moi introduced the Nyayo bus service. However, due to the stiff competition from the matatu owners, Nyayo bus service collapsed as well. Statistically, less than 15% of the city population have private vehicles. 95% of the trips, and especially with the low income earners, are by matatus and walk. There are approximately 175 routes in Nairobi City. These routes are serviced by 97% matatus and only 3% by buses. In the operation of the public transportation in Nairobi City, it is mainly run by private sector, with no government subsidy, no legal framework, no policy and institution. The law enforcement measures have been influenced by corruption and illegality, resulting to introduction of second-hand low-capacity vehicles. The liberation of matatus industry therefore brought about the collapse of the formal transport companies in the city. On the policy implementation, we have had several policies being initiated. The initial policy was the presidential decree that was stated in 1973. The objective was to fill the gap of the unmet demands by the formal public transportation. No proper policy and regulation aided the establishment of the decree. The decree resulted in the collapse of the formal transportation system. On the other hand, there was need for sanity. So in 2003, legal notice number 161 was introduced. The decree was aimed at addressing road safety by providing rules and mode of demeanor, passengers, vehicles, crews, and owners. The rules improved safety on the roads, allowed only compliant vehicles and certified crew in the operation. Another intervention was on decongesting the CBD. Matatus were restricted from entering the Nairobi CBD. Only the formal commuter buses were allowed. Over time, PSV started being introduced in the CBD, which created chaotic discipline, which arose as every matatu wanted to get entry into the CBD to pick passengers and drop passengers. To address these, satellite terminals were introduced, although these did not become successful. Phasing out of many matatus. The Ministry of Transport placed a legal notice that transport licensing board shall not license the 14-seater mini matatus beginning January 2011. The introduction of the over 25 passenger seats were established, although they realized that the 14-seater mini matatus form the highest percentage of the transportation sector. Self-organization, the government says that to remove the penetration of cartels in the public sector, every public service vehicle should be registered by a savings and credit corporation circle. This was to ensure self-regulation of public transportation. For proposals, it is noted that Nairobi City needs a hybrid system of public transportation. An integration of both the formal mode of higher passenger capacity and matatus with proper assignments for road and modes. The government ought to invest in the route infrastructure such as modes of BRT, bus rapid transport, which function effectively. It's noted that some of the policy interventions are good. However, good measures should be observed at their implementation phase. It's noted that there has been much advancement in the industry, which begins by self-regulations through the city-wide fleet management, establishment of high-capacity electrical minibuses, CBD decongestion strategies, training of matatu crews on laws, and customer care services. On the other hand, we are privileged that the government has improved operations by designing and improvement of non-motorized transport and renovation of pedestrian flyover bridges. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening.